What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Big Thing Sith Council. It's the spoiler discussion for Ahsoka Episode 8. It's the finale, ladies and gentlemen. So, what did we think? Well, if you saw my out of the theater, immediate reaction, you knew I didn't like it. I didn't like it, but I liked the season. So, I can't wait to discuss. I don't know. I have both Frank Janisch and I have Frankie Numbers. He's the same person, and Kevin Smets. I've got them on the show. Scoundrels Inc., ladies and gentlemen. I'm in the minority. So I've got them on the show. I don't know what they think about the episode. I have no idea. I went to see The Exorcist, and then I was like, I can't see Ahsoka yet. So basically, I wanted to see both these guys were available, and I'm shooting this at night, and I'm going to have it come out tomorrow. So that's what we're doing. We're just going to do a full discussion. Brand new to the channel, you've never been here before. We need you to show just a little bit of class. Hit that subscribe button. Why? Because we're almost at 100,000 subscribers and trying to do it on my birthday month, October. That's right. And you guys can help us out if you join. We have full on discussions. We got out of the theater reaction, short form, long form. We got all of it. Apple Podcast, Spotify. That's how you can be part of the community. So do it. All right. Without any further ado, let's get to it. It's Big Thing. It's me. It's Frank Janisch. It's Kevin Smets. Here we go.
I can feel your anger. It gives you focus, makes you stronger.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Big Thing Sith Council. Frank Janisch, Kevin Smets. Here we go. Gentlemen, I have not spoken to you about this at all. I don't know. I'm going to start because this is the way that I look at you guys as far as opinion wise. I like to talk to both of you guys about Star Wars all the time, but it seems, and what I like about the way Frank approaches Star Wars is that he does fall, and hear me out, he does fall in the everything is awesome crew from time to time, but he doesn't give you crap if you don't like something. He goes, all right, yeah, I see what you're saying, and he goes back and forth. So I'm gonna guess that Frank Janisch loved this episode. Now, Kevin Smets can be a little bit more critical. I feel that Kevin felt more on the range of I did, but I could be wrong. I'll start with Frank Janisch. Am I right? Did you love this episode?
Love is a strong word.
Okay.
It's a strong word.
Okay.
It's close to, I'll tell you, it's close to love. I liked it a whole lot. There's a lot of good stuff in here that I liked. And I had some interesting questions about some other stuff. You know, when we get into the episode, we'll talk about that stuff. But I liked it a whole lot. I didn't love it, but I liked it a lot. I don't know if Mike's going to count that towards me loving every episode as the next best thing, but we'll see. We'll see.
Camera's great. Camera's great. The camera's great. Yeah, and I can't wait to hear the microphone. Why don't you just go outside and scream from the balcony? Probably be better than whatever you're working with. Look at this. Right, you guys have no idea. Right before I looked at Frank Janisch's camera, I look at Frank. That setup that Frank's got, and in comes 1973. It looks. I mean, it looks like someone just hit his camera with a hammer. For those people who know, it's so bad he can't even. He's trying so hard to make it work.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
I think it's the lights in his background that are affecting his focus on his camera.
This is a nightmare.
He can't even compose himself.
Frank Janisch, when I turned on the thing, I said, you know what? Frank has just changed my entire attitude towards streaming because it could look good. And then Kevin Smets went right back to why I hated so much.
I don't know what's going on. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Great.
I was just about to say how I got camera shamed right before we went on the air, and now I can't unsee it. And then I was more entertained in the last 5 minutes than I was on the show tonight. So yeah, no.
So you didn't like it either?
No, look, I didn't. I was trying to look up a tweet because Frank's like, oh, I didn't love it, but his tweet was like, warlocks and witches and what else does this? Well, you loved it, bro.
It was the title of the episode, Kevin.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
It was the title of the episode.
I will say this. I watched it with my wife. My wife loved it. She's in love with Rosario Dawson's back muscles, so she was enjoying. Yeah, sure. But I thought I'm just like you, Kristian. I'm so glad I didn't text you guys. I almost texted you guys like mid-show, like but I didn't. So you're right on the money though. I like the series overall. The finale, like immediately afterwards, we watched some of the Kenobi finale. And as much as detractors have for the Kenobi show or whatever, and I still like our movie version better, I thought the Kenobi finale was great, aside from the whole returning for Luke stuff. But I didn't think it didn't stick the landing. I just thought like
it lacked emotion. It lacked emotion. Where even though I'm not a big fan of the Kenobi series, and I like this series better than the Kenobi series overall, the Kenobi finale, you're right, Kevin. The Kenobi finale to me had way more emotion and emotional stake, and they set it up to where at least, you know, by the time we get to the end of it, I felt it, and I felt those moments that they had.
Oh.
You know,
I showed Dasha the scene again where Obi-Wan sits, and because you see that ending, and I'm sure we'll get to it with the Ahsoka, where you see Anakin like looking on and stuff, and it's like everybody's moving on and stuff. And Obi-Wan, the end of that series, when he leans down and tells little Leia the traits that he got from his mother, and then says how your father was fearless and forthright, and these are the traits that get your father, right? And he says both were exceptional people. Like that's like that kind of emotion that the scene was lacking. And I'm sorry, dude, you didn't have Chewie hug Leia after Han died. How do you not show Hera hug Ezra?
Well, I mean, she did get that part of it. Actually, I'll tell you, there was a lot that actually did work for me in this episode, and I'll tell you the stuff that did work. I love the stuff with Hu Yang and Ezra building the saber, telling him about Kanan. All those moments I thought worked really well, even though I really wished that Sabine wouldn't have used the Force at all, because I thought they should have used more so the.
I immediately thought of you when that happened, but
I was watching the Chirrut Emwe thing would have made more sense to me, that she felt the Force, but she didn't have to use it. But I thought they used it creatively enough that it worked, right? I thought that the moment, I actually did like the moment with Hera when he came out and he went back, but there was a lot. This was to me the poorly written. It was the worst written episode so far, because a lot of it made ridiculous sense. Like she's trying to figure out how to use the Force for the whole thing. She finally uses it. She gets the saber, and then Ezra trusts her to throw him across the thing after she just figured out how to do it. That's part one.
Like I don't trust you as far as I can throw you. Like
that's part.
Well, I think that was. They set that up in the beginning of the episode when Ahsoka is talking to Sabine about trust. And while it's a little interesting how they get there by the end of the episode, sure. I'll tell you what though, I didn't have a problem with her grabbing the saber in that moment when she did.
Yeah, it was fine.
I like where fine. I'm a little bit of like, is the push. And
the push, like, right.
That to me was a little bit of a bridge too far, but
she just figured out how to do it not 2 minutes earlier. She just figured out how to do it. That, and then the other thing was my biggest problem, I think, that I was the most disappointed with, as I've been saying leading up to it, which probably would have changed the whole episode for me, is the threats weren't threats. Yeah. Like it's like Thrawn's like, blast them all. There's 2 wolf rats, 2, and they're on top of them, like here, and they're shooting down, and they hit nothing. And then he's oh, we missed.
Well, I mean, what are you going to do? Let them walk in scot-free? We got to have something going on there.
No, but I mean, they did walk in scot-free. They
did.
Well,
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, not doing like Thrawn would have just going to let them just walk in without any firing on them at all.
But you make him. It's like a heel that hit in wrestling that hits his finishing move, and then some average guy just kicks out of it. It's just not threatening anymore. It's like, don't do the finisher. Don't do the finisher. Do something else. Send someone else to do something, because. And again, every time when they set it up, and it goes back a couple more episodes where they went back, like when they first, Sabine, and Thrawn tells Sabine, your buddy might be dead because there's some real threats out there. And these loser bandits that did nothing. They weren't scary. And then you set up these stormtroopers the first time you see them, and they're devastating. They're just as worse as the other ones. They're just dead. And there were no threats. And Thrawn didn't win. He just escaped like a criminal. That's all he did.
My thing about Thrawn, and that was a thing, he's supposed to be like just the most insane, clever tactician, like really scary. And if you're setting him up to be the big bad, and it's almost parody where it's like, oh, we like last episode, Balin took off and we lost the battle, but I think we won the day. And then today, like, oh, we lost 2 TIE fighters, but we have them right where we want them. Like, he's constantly like,
I mean, if you don't like the running theme of him being foiled by a Jedi every step of the way, yeah. I mean, it's his classic. It's his That's the one thing that's always tripping him up is
I know, but
Jedi.
Him be this
I understand.
But Frank, they're trying to set him up to be Thanos. You got to remember. So you and me and to Kevin, we've seen him get foiled by Jedi in the past, but you're setting him up to a new audience that he needs to be terrifying if he's going to be the big bad in Filoni's movie and the rest of the series. Right now, because they've even said it, like people have said he's like the Thanos of it. He does not play like Thanos. He plays like a guy that just kind of, we made it. You know, it's like they escaped. There was no, he's not scary.
Maybe
the concept of a military tactician being so unbelievably skilled at that. Like, I mean, I always got to get my KOTOR reference in it, but Revan was known as one of the most brilliant military strategists ever. And you see that in the novel and in the not the MMO, but in the storytelling of what Kriya says about her in KOTOR 2 and what what Canderous says. Like, you don't see that tactician. And I'm not trying to, we always say like, oh, I'm not trying to write fan fiction. But if he would, I think I told you, Kristian, my prediction was the last scenes were going to be him coming back with just this one Star Destroyer being outflanked by an entire Republic cruiser. And then you'd see him do some crazy maneuver. You know what I mean? Like whatever.
They spent too much time on this planet. They spent I thought they were going to get the hell out of there. And I thought they were going to, they spent so much time on this planet with the freaking turtle people are still running around the joint.
My daughter likes the turtle people.
Of course. I don't mind them either, but they're Ewoks, they're Porgs, they're just, they're Star Wars. They're Star Wars. They fit but they spent so much time on that planet. Like if this was episode 7, I'd be like, okay, this is a good episode 7. Baylan and Shin are in it for 5 seconds. We've spent so much time with them.
I was surprised about I was surprised about their screen time in this episode because as the episode kept going, I'm like, man, we haven't even touched on what they're up to, and that's when I was like, well, this is clearly setting up for something for a season 2 or the movie, but it seems more like a season 2, even though they haven't said anything about a season 2. It's hard to imagine there won't be. So
wanted to see how the show was going to do. They were going to see what the fan reaction was going to be, and it does seem like a lot of people like the finale. So I'm glad that people like the finale. From what I've seen, I put my out of the theater reaction up, and people are like, "Oh, I'm surprised you didn't like it. I really enjoyed it." And this is coming from someone who really enjoyed last episode, and a lot of people didn't. So I just might be off of what they're looking for. I thought, of course, the moment with Anakin was cool. Of course, the moment was cool, but it's like, again, same thing. He's the Force Ghost. He's there. I guess Force Ghosts can travel anywhere, which makes sense. But it's also, why are you peering down the hill? If you can do it, just appear there and go, hey, guys, I'm going to help you.
What cinematic. I know.
I am
glad that Twitter liked it because just because it didn't land 100% for me, if Twitter hated it, then it would be, or if the internet hated it,
they might still. I don't know. I'm just telling you what my YouTube
annoying place to be for the next week or the next several months, right? So I hope that everybody liked it. It just, my wife loved it. I liked it. It just the series as a whole I liked, but it did not dethrone Obi-Wan for me. Obi-Wan remains in that number 1, and that's just
really no. Obi-Wan's your number 1 show.
Yeah, I mean,
oh wow.
It's hard. It's you know what it is. Obi-Wan is like
my life,
that.
Christian.
Wow.
Listen,
I kid.
Oh, what happened?
I thought his camera crapped out, but
you know when you have you have that friend from like college or whatever that's always like hitting you up later and they're struggling and you like feel bad for them. So that's like Obi-Wan to me, right? I understand that Andor is the better, more responsible, cool friend.
Not Mandalorian season 1 or 2.
I do like season 2 of Mandalorian, but yeah, I think that Andor and Obi-Wan are up there. Okay. Obi-Wan is just that like the heartstrings for me. Plus, our movie version is actually really good. So.
Your movie version is much better. But anyway, so yeah, the Baylan and Shin stuff. But what if you talk about that? Like, there's only 2 options now. Obviously, it's recast or just say Baylan lives on this planet now, and we haven't seen him. We don't know where he is anymore.
They could do both, yeah. Either
you could do both, but it's kind of like you set him up, and you've set him up to be such a great. He was arguably the best character on the show. I think he was developed way better than Thrawn was. I think he was scarier than Thrawn was, because there was so much to him, and then at the end he's just kind of like looking off in the distance and kind of finding his mountain. Yeah, he's finding his path. But like if you set up a season 2, it's Baylan and Shin that are on that planet with them. And I didn't know what Shin was doing at first. I got nervous because when she showed up at first with the bandits and she does this, I was like, oh no, is she going to turn
She's got
good?
the Knights of Shin is what she's got going on.
She's got Knights of Shin, and so that's okay. Though I mean, they're pretty worthless too. So I don't know how much of a threat that is. It's like nobody was. I just the villains, and I said this. I still think this. Like Shin and both Shin and Balin are both to me the best Star Wars villains we've gotten in a while, and they were sidelined. Crazy.
I think that's just a long game, and like obviously no one expected Rey to pass away, and I think that they had bigger things in store for them. But and I hate to, by the way, I hate to like I'm comparing things, but like I showed Dasha the trailer for Andor because I think she wants to watch that next.
Yeah.
And there are scenes in Andor that just remind you that when you heard the whir of the TIE fighter, and they kind of did it a little in this episode.
Yeah, they did. They did.
But when you hear the whir of the TIE fighter in Andor, it's such a scary. They make it so scary. The Empire felt so overwhelming and scary. Yeah. And that's what was lacking in this Ahsoka series. Was
they feel goofy. They feel goofy again. Yeah. They felt goofy. There was. It felt a little. It felt a little animated. And it felt a bit goofy, and they didn't like when they showed up in that episode with Thrawn. They were scary, and Goldust did nothing. He did nothing. And he did nothing, and I was like, oh, what's this guy gonna do? He sounds cool. He looks cool, but he didn't do anything.
I mean, I was kind of expecting that. I mean, he's kind of Thrawn's, Knights of the Guard Watch, whatever, and I didn't really expect to see him get into any harm's way, if you will, because that's Thrawn's right-hand man for the most part. And so I didn't think he was ever going to send him out there because Thrawn, he does fear the Jedi because he can't figure them out, even if it's, and they talked about Anakin Skywalker's apprentice. I mean,
that's a win for the book fans right there.
I mean, sure, but I think that's also setting up the fact how much he is cautious of Ahsoka, and he says as much in the episode that she can't be negotiated with. So I'm going to try whatever, and yet, and actually, this whole episode with Lars Mikkelsen's acting of Thrawn, every time something was happening, you could just his face acting was like through the roof. He had so many ticks and twitches of his face of any little thing that happened that. He couldn't, destroy them on their howlers when they're running towards the catacomb thing, and he didn't, successfully wipe them out last episode when Balin bailed, and so it was really kind of. You're right that I don't think they really nailed the evil villain status because he was always being usurped by Ahsoka and Sabine and Ezra at every turn almost, even though they did fail ultimately. So it's.
Here's
it's
a
an
question
interesting
for
way
you, Frank.
to like paint Thrawn, but it's
how do you think Vader and Empire Strikes Back would have handled Thrawn after the third or fourth time he failed? He would have choked Thrawn out. He would have gone the way of all the other guys. So.
Well, that's a good point though too. Look, Vader's Vader, right? But like when when you're trying to set up this guy as the big bad. He just doesn't. I love Thrawn. I mean, you got to understand something. Like Thrawn to me, I've been waiting for Thrawn for a long time. I freaked out when he was in Rebels and everything too, and when he was coming into live action. I think Lars Mikkelsen plays him great. I just wanted what they could have done was instead of turtle people or maybe with turtle people, they introduce you to some new characters that you get attached to throughout it, and then you kill them off at the end. Because then at least something happens to where they do something. There's some kind of
you want to catch the Morgan Elsbeth? Come on.
But she was bad guy.
I know.
Yeah. But and plus you knew she was going to die. The second she picked up that sword, I was like, oh well, she's dead because they needed something that was going to happen. And then and Rick Famuyiwa is such a good director. I didn't think that the sword fights were that great between the two of them. They looked clunky. There was a couple moments that looked fantastic. There were a couple of times, like the way that when they were fighting, and Morgan more so to me, honestly, looked more the pro, and the way that they shot it. There were a couple times it looked like a straight up old school martial arts fight. Yeah. But there were some times when it was shot that it looked a little clunky, like with like slow motion, and it looked like.
Well, the non-saber duels too. I thought the action with like. The Walking Dead part was kind of cool, but like the action where they're all standing there, I thought there was man, I do sound negative about this. I thought there was too many wide shots of them just like deflecting and stuff like that. Like I thought that they could, and again, I know I keep, because I was showing Dasha like little parts. That first scene with Ahsoka and the Mandalorian season 2 in the fog and stuff like that is like such good action, right? And like they're on the ship, and I get it. There's 3, and they have to fight all these like zombie people, but it didn't feel like they were that creative in the visual storytelling of that part. I did think the duel was a little. I like the duel probably more than you did, Kristian. But I did.
There was a couple great parts. There's a couple of great parts, but there was just a couple of times if you watch it back, it looked like there was a couple of times when it's like, and I was like, oh man,
how was that again? Do that again.
But
dude.
Yeah, but no, but you know, and the zombie part of it. I mean, look, we all knew that was going to happen from the way that they set up like Merrick, right? We knew that was kind of the idea. But the problem was when I was watching the reaction of it is that okay, so they shoot dead. They take out these stormtroopers with no problem when they first come in before they come back from the dead again. So like when they pop back up, I'm like, okay, they're just gonna kill them again now. And they didn't. It's like, and it's like there was just never. I was never scared. It just felt it. It did feel like a Rebels episode unanimated.
I'm curious about whether or not they had. I mean, they obviously had to have a decision or talked about how creepy they want to go with it, and they made a decision not to go that creepy because obviously the material's there to do that. And things have been done that way.
Imagine one of the lights gets shut down and then it's in the pitch darkness and they're coming in the shadows.
But I'm not just talking about the look of it though, guys. I'm talking about more so of like there's no like the 3 of them did you ever fear for any of them that they would be hurt or anything? Did you ever feel like anybody was going to be hurt? Did you ever fear?
To Dasha and I was like, haven't they watched The Walking Dead? They got to stab him in the brain because I did think it was cool that they were shooting them and they would keep going. So that was kind of cool that they kept like moving forward. But yeah, there was no.
To answer your question, Kristian, I never for once in any episode ever thought Ahsoka, Sabine, Ezra are ever going to be in danger. And I just think that's a product of knowing there's more things to come. That's part of it. But also I think that's kind of, Dave doesn't really do that per se. He says if he wants to do it though, the way he did Kanan, he can knock it out of the park on occasion.
Sure.
But that just wasn't his MO. So I didn't go in expecting that, and so
it wasn't that anybody. I didn't think any one of them would die, but it just didn't. Like I said, there had to be a thing where, like, even what Thanos was able to do, or these great villains that are being set up, they do something. It's just like what did Thrawn do? Like, what did he do? He got away. And now he's back, and now there's a big threat. Why? He's got one ship and a bunch of dead stormtroopers that everybody can take out anyway. Like,
he's on Dathomir. That's kind of scary.
That is scary. That's true. He got to Dathomir, and now he's got a chance to set more things up, and that's true. But if they know that he's back, and because Ezra knows, and that's the other thing. So they try. What was Ahsoka doing? Ahsoka takes the ship and flies towards it. Like, how is she going to get on that ship? That's part one. Then he tracks her, and I did love the conversation that Thrawn said when he's just like, nice try, brings up Anakin, peace out, and takes off. But if he was able to, and they tracked him like that, right? How did they not track Ezra leave?
Yeah, I mean, he got in.
Come on, Frank.
Ship.
Come on, Frank.
I don't know. No. I'm just saying.
Sometimes
you just got to be like, I want Ezra over there now, and that's what they do. Sure, that's what they did.
But that's the difference between Andor and this show and Mandalorian season 3 is that, and I stand by it. Like I think that this was a fun. Minus my thoughts on this, I really enjoyed this series. I thought it was a fun Star Wars show, and it's nice to take the difference between something like Andor and this, but it's apples and oranges as far as writing goes. I mean, the full on detail, like in what Andor does and how you build up to where when someone dies or someone's in trouble or there's a particular threat, like you feel it because of the writing. Like this, some of the writing in this series was a little simple.
Yeah, and I think
they did have a great Back to the Future 2 moment.
They did. I brought that up. Yeah.
Wait, the
Back to the Future moment. Oh, come on, Frank.
The Back to the Future 2. Back to the Future 2.
Back to the Future 2 when he's on the rooftop with old Biff.
When they jump off.
Yeah. That or Aladdin.
I shouted Back to the Future.
Oh yeah, Aladdin 2 would have been.
I said in my reaction, I said Back to the Future 2 and Aladdin. Yeah.
I don't subscribe to you, so I don't watch your videos.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. It's like it's true with a microphone like yours. What'd you say? I mean, listen, we got more to talk about for sure. But before we do, just to take a quick break, I want to tell you guys a little bit about two of our wonderful sponsors. We got both AG1 and Marine Layer. Let me tell you about both of them right now. Support for today's episode comes from Marine Layer. You guys know I love t-shirts. I wear them all the time. They sent me the softest t-shirt ever. Like ever. Imagine like the softest thing that you ever touched. Kittens. Small puppies. Or freshly fallen snow. Now take that by 1,000. I'm telling you, these things are so soft. I couldn't believe it. People tell you that stuff all the time, but this is fact. Whether you're going out on a date, you're at the office, you're keeping it casual, you're shooting videos, Marine Layer has the best shirts for every occasion. Marine Layer clothes are that perfect mix of laid-back style that also looks and feels premium. So I needed a new gear, man, and they sent me this website, and I was on there forever going through stuff and picking out great stuff. They just have so much to choose from and so many different things. Like comfortable, whatever your style is. I love it. It's so soft. It doesn't matter how many times you wash it. Soft. It's incredible. I love them. And I'm always in the look for new gear, and I found it. Marine Layer, man. Now, for a limited time, get 15% off with the code BIGTHING15 for 15% off your entire order at marinelayer.com. Save your closet one shirt at a time. I love talking about AG1. It's the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. I drink it every day. Set it up. I put it in this cup. I've told you about the zoo cup that I have. I love this stupid zoo cup, but I love AG1 because I put it in the cup, just mix it around, and that's it. I get better gut health. I have a boost of energy. I have my immune system support. It's helping my sleep quality. That's what's really great about it. It helps my sleep quality. I'm just never been a person that can keep up with that supplement routine. And here's 3,000 different vitamins. Take this point, take this, then screw that. I take it once, put it in that cup, shake it around, and that's it. And I felt so much better. I have a extra pep in my step because of it. And I don't understand why people want to take a whole bunch of different things. We can just do it all. 1 scoop of powder, put it in water once a day. That's it. Because it was designed with ease in mind. You can live your life healthier and better, and you don't have to complicate your routine. I love getting the single serving, the AG1 travel packs for me because they're just simple. If I have them, even when I go to a screening, sometimes if I forget to take it, I'm like, oh, I got my travel pack. I'll take it now. And I never miss a day. If you want to take ownership of your health, you try AG1. You get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/bigthing. Drinkag1.com/bigthing. Check it out. It's every single week I get somebody saying, hey, I tried it. I signed up because of you. You've been telling me about it, and I love it. Be one of those people. Tell me about it. Get control of your energy. Get control of good sleep quality. Drink AG1. All right. Thank you to our friends over at AG1 and Marine Layer. I love both of these companies very much so. And as I ask you guys many times over that when you're saying, hey, I want to support the channel, I want to support you guys, what do we do? You guys don't really do live too much. We don't do super chats. How can I support the channel? I always say, look, I think Winston said it last week, that the best thing is get something for yourself. It's like, if you're able to and you have the means to, please get one of our sponsors today, and that will support us more than you can possibly imagine. And it'll also get you some really good, both AG1 and Marine Layer. I couldn't recommend more. They're so good. All right, bring back the guys. Okay, so like I said, I think that this episode had some really good stuff also. And unlike Mike Kalinowski, I don't want to just focus on the negative. I do want to focus on a lot of positive too, because I do think, like I said, what I said in my reaction was, Kevin and I feel different about like Obi-Wan. I don't need an Obi-Wan season 2. I don't need a Boba Fett season 2. I like, okay, they're doing it. I mean, I'll watch it, Star Wars, but I want a season 2 of Ahsoka, regardless of what I felt about the finale. I think they set it up. By the time I left at the end, I'm like, oh, where's it going? What's going to happen? What's going to happen to this person? What's going to happen there? Like, I care, as opposed to the other ones. I'm like, I don't know if I care. I thought that that's because of what they did pretty well throughout it. Now, Frank, do you think, is Hayden going to have a pretty big role, you think, in season 2?
Probably not. I think they did the work here in season 1 because it pertained to Ahsoka's journey and story that they were trying to tell here. I mean, I think the look, Ahsoka's look out over the plains, whatever, and sees Force Ghost Anakin, I think kind of is a little bit of a bow on the Anakin chapter.
You think
for
it's
her.
over? You think it's over?
I don't think. I think he will have an appearance. I don't think he will play an appearance the way he did in
Okay.
He'll have a role to play the way he did in season 1. But I think he might show up and be like, hey, Ahsoka, put on video number 13. I'll tell you everything you need to know about this upcoming mission. Something, something small, I think. But
Okay.
I don't think in a whole episode like
So,
that.
Kev, you're shaking your head. You think he's done?
I loved it. I loved the bow at the end. That was one of my highlights. I actually, like, in front of my wife, started tearing up, and she kind of laughed. But I think that let's talk to Heir to the Empire, the novel. There was a great scene in the original non-canon novel where Obi-Wan appears to Luke and is like, "Hey, I'm going now. Like, this is it. This is the last. You got to go off on your own," and stuff like that. And I felt like that look of him was looking at Ahsoka, saying he got through us. He helped Ahsoka get through that crisis of faith that she had. And she sees that even though she's in this dire spot now, stuck on this planet, she seems okay. And it looked to me that he was a proud master looking at his apprentice like, okay, she's good. I can now go on to the netherworld and all that. So to be honest, like I love Hayden. I hope we get that Clone Wars Apocalypse Now,
so good.
de-aged movie. But as far as Hayden goes for this, I think it would be cool if you don't see him anymore. I don't think Ahsoka needs him anymore. Like, I think that was the whole storytelling. But I never want to put food off Hayden's plate. If he comes back for another season, that would be great. I also agree with you, though, Kristian. I don't want an Obi-Wan season 2. I wanted it always to be one thing. So, but I do want an Ahsoka season 2. But I think in Ahsoka season 2, it doesn't need Anakin. I think that they've moved on from that, and I think now we should get Ahsoka. She's moved on from.
They should explore more Ahsoka Sabine relationship because they didn't really do anything.
Well, I mean,
major until this episode. Really, you find out exactly what was going on between them or what happened.
Yeah, right. Because she's going to kind of go down the dark side. I think we kind of all thought that anyway. But and even though they didn't even set it up too much, where she, like Ezra, they set up in Rebels. Like I can't, Frank. I remember talking to you about it. Like every 5 seconds, you thought that guy could go evil. And they did it really well. I never really felt that with Sabine, like ever. Even when she gave away the thing to Balin, like I never felt like she could go to the dark side, and never did. But as
you guys remember when everyone thought Benicio del Toro was going to play a bad Ezra in the Last Jedi?
I know a lot of people brought that up. But what I will say about Hayden though is, I do think he's going to come back, and I don't disagree with your points, Kev. I actually, with both you guys, I actually agree that it is a good bow, but remember that they ended on this planet, right? And they also want people to watch season 2. Yeah. And Hayden, that episode was easily, and now that we can actually find out streaming numbers, maybe, I bet you that is the highest viewed episode by far. And brought in, a lot of water cooler discussion. So,
that was Kristian. That was Hogan Rock at WrestleMania 18.
But it was
episode, and then now had the 2 matches afterwards that had to follow that, which kind of fell flat. Chris Jericho, Triple H, that kind of thing, where you peaked kind of
sweet camera.
Mother, gosh.
It's great. It's good. Yes, that's actually much better.
Sorry, I'm not a streaming mogul like you guys.
That has nothing to do with anything. You don't have to be streaming. You just got to get a camera that works. It's like talking to my father on Skype. How do you work this? What are you looking at bug spray? Why are you looking at bug spray?
What do you want me to do? Like,
stay still. I don't know.
Stay still. Just cut it out. Put on a helmet.
I hate you guys both.
Where's your coach or helmet now? Wear that thing. Anyway,
I'll figure it out. For your audio listeners, it'll be fine.
As he tries to bring balance to his face. Yeah, Frank, I think that, like I said, I really, and I love the fact, because at first when Ezra starts building the lightsaber, I'm like, now he wants a lightsaber? And I said, well, you know what? He did say in the last episode that he gave that to Sabine. That was hers. I think that he could have used it in the last episode. I thought that was a little silly that he's forced throwing people around, but nonetheless, he was like, I'm going to build it. And I was like, well, how come he hasn't built it? And I was answering my own questions as I was saying it out loud. I was like, well, how come he hasn't built one in the 10 or 11 years he was here? Is it because he didn't have the pieces, dummy? The pieces were on the ship with Hu Yang. And then they had a really great moment with him and Hu Yang. But did you like that scene?
Oh, I love that scene.
Yeah.
And going back to real quick to the last episode, why I thought they were going to give Ezra a bigger moment with a lightsaber in the finale. They didn't quite do it in the way that I thought, but I think it was all for this scene between Hu Yang and Ezra talking about Sabine coming in saying Kanan Jarrus, and then Hu Yang casually dropping the Caleb Doom, his real name. I love that. Then the emitter, just great touch of like the lineage between Kanan and Ezra, and there was just a lot there, and it was just like Ezra has access to Hu Yang now, who has all this information, and Ezra kind of knows more or less the right question to ask, as opposed to Sabine, who has limited knowledge, and so they could have went in way more interesting types of conversation, but you only have so much time in an episode. So
I
would love to see them together again. Hopefully, well, I don't know when, if ever.
Well, Hu Yang,
yeah, because Ezra is in the
where is Hu Yang? Oh, yeah, that's right. Hu Yang's with the turtle people making quesadillas. So yeah, I mean, I did really like that moment a lot. I think what's going to happen now, I think it's pretty much a given, is that Ezra is going to train Jason.
You would hope so. He's in the same galaxy now.
Right.
Where are they during the sequel trilogy? Dead. Where? How could you cannot have Ezra miss another galactic conflict? So he's dead. He's deader than Disco in that Filoni.
If they set it up, I mean, look, that's what season 2. I mean, I thought season 1 was going to end with Thrawn really almost like Infinity War style. I thought that's what it was going to. I was like, oh wow, this guy's no joke. But it was just like, again, like I said, the guy escaped, and now he's setting it up. I think, Kevin, you made a great point, is that he's on Dathomir, and that's not a threat to be taken lightly. I mean, that's pretty, especially now that he's got the 3 witches. I mean, Morgan was just kind of a scapegoat. They're like, oh yeah, Morgan's dead, and he's like, eh. He didn't really care.
But it was interesting though, seeing the reactions of the Night Sisters or the Great Mothers. It's just kind of like, it looked like they rolled their eyes when they sensed that Morgan was dead. It was like, ugh, great, she's dead. And then, oh, great, now he's shooting our catacombs. Like, this guy, he resurrected us. So do we have to keep, bowing down to him for the rest of our life if he's going to keep doing crap like this? So it was an interesting, I wonder how that relationship will now go on Dathomir.
Well, why did they didn't really explain how did he? But because they said it in this episode where Ezra was like, Thrawn found the witches and woke them up, and then that's what he did. It's like, well, yeah, but how did he do that? Because they never really explained, like, so the two of them were in the end of Rebels. They go to this place, they find this planet, and then, like, how did he find the witches? Like, how did he? Did I miss that?
No,
explain that.
They didn't explain how Ezra escaped from Thrawn. They didn't explain how they got to that planet specifically. If the Purgle just dropped him off there, and then Thrawn was like, "Hey, I remember hearing about the Nicers might be from another galaxy." I don't know. That's probably a book, Kristian. Let's be honest. I don't know.
I know. But yeah, I mean, I was just kind of going through people. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of people who really dug it, right? It was pretty fun again to watch Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra fighting together, regardless of the easy. I mean, it's funny because as much I love Rebels, like I think I'm in the minority where I actually like Rebels better than Clone Wars.
No, I agree actually.
Okay, so I love
Still
Rebels.
could be the minority.
I think so too. I think you.
Okay.
I think across the board.
All right, so Rebels, to me, it's funny, as much as I loved it, my biggest criticism is that for this episode is that some of the fight scenes felt like I was watching an episode of Rebels. And it was like, where you could be like, oh, like if I watched the same thing happen in animation, I would have loved it. I would have loved it because it would have played good in animation.
I don't think you're wrong about
great camera.
I don't think you're wrong about it feeling like some of the fight choreography and spacing feeling little tints of animation, but it is interesting because it is Rick Famuyiwa who
it was, which is interesting.
Pretty cool seeing Ezra with the radio though. He used to do a lot of that in Rebels, like take the Stormtroopers radio.
That was classic Ezra. Good Rebel stuff.
I thought Ezra was great. I joke with Dasha, like we call the Ahsoka, like as much as I didn't think the finale landed that well for me, it's the Ted Lasso of Star Wars. Like I thought, like every character was so likable. Like even the villains, Balin. We all love Balin. We all love Shin, right?
Awesome.
We all love Ahsoka. My wife loved Hera. Like all the and Ezra's just so darn likable. Like it's the Ted Lasso, and like every episode of Ted Lasso always had that one moment that got you going, like where you like oh you almost cried. And there was a moment in the finale with at the end, obviously with Anakin, where it's like that same thing, like they got you, they get the Ted Lasso moment.
Yeah, well, I think that I did like how Sabine kind of sensed Anakin there too, right? She knew something. She didn't know what it was.
Cool. Something was going. Yeah.
She knew something was going on. Yeah, I like that. And then Ahsoka knew. So both your guys' logic, by the way, on why he shouldn't be in it makes total sense. Total sense. I just think that they're going to need it for some star power to.
I don't think you're wrong either. I don't think you're wrong about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
I want to see him with Luke. That's the last. Remember we talked about it. That's the last super matchup. That we need to see. That's Cena Hogan that we never got, or Hogan Austin.
It makes me nervous though, guys, because like there was that rumor going around, and whether or not it's true or not, I don't know. But the rumor was that there was a mandate that came down from Kathleen Kennedy that basically said no more Luke, no more Skywalker stuff. We're going to leave with other characters. We don't need Luke anymore. We don't need Han. It's why we mentioned Leia. But I just think if Thrawn comes back, especially now that he's in the galaxy and he's got to be there. I mean, why wouldn't you call him?
I was if they don't have him,
he's busy making quesadillas with those robots.
In some capacity. I'm gonna be very curious how they try to explain this. You're right. I think it's like
right. Well, the other thing, they show Zeb in Mandalorian season 3 is nowhere to be found in this. I could have sworn they were going to show him at the very end.
He could have been on the deck of the ship, or I guess it was that Home One. I guess he could have been there. And
what a moment it would have been if like and I know it was cinematic. But Ezra is smarter.
Yes.
To walk off the ship with the helmet on.
Yeah.
And I like that when he takes the helmet off, all the people that don't know who the heck he is, they all lower his weapons too. Like he's still a stormtrooper with a beard. Like only Hera would understand and know.
Most people,
But this time, when that type of ship approaches a ship and lands, you notice how they brought out the whole crew all armed instead of. So I was like, okay, well they're like very cautious of like what's this ship gonna.
Yeah, but it's like if you're Ezra, like what, I'm gonna go ahead and take this off so that way they don't shoot me.
It was like Spaceballs with Rick Moranis coming out with the smoke, and then he's like, I can't see a thing in this thing.
But it was a sweet, but the counter to that is that it was a sweet moment that Chopper knew exactly who it was.
Yeah, I did like that. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, so like I said, there was I said on my reaction, it was that if you found my channel with that reaction, you're like, oh, this guy hated the series. On the contrary, I loved the series. I really did. I thought the series was a lot of fun. The music from start to finish was just next level.
Previously on music, I thought was killer. I was like, oh, Kevin Kiner is bringing it. Like even in the previously on music,
he's
I was
the
like,
best.
holy hell,
he's the best. And there were little hints. There was one moment though when the dead troopers come back and they're running. It felt like an Abbott and Costello movie at one point when they're running through, and even with the music, it felt like almost like it should have been black and white in the same way Werewolf by Night.
Did you notice when they had started sealing the doors, the sound effect that they used when the night troopers blast through the blast door? It's like that same sound effect they use on the Tantive 4 in the beginning of New Hope. It's that same sound effect. Yeah, I noticed. Cool. I was like, that sounds really. So it's like they do a really good job at little details like that, and then sometimes there's other parts where you're like, oh.
I did love the chant, the Belni, Vedi, Nalin, Kasim, like kind of shades of Kalima from Temple of Doom.
Oh, sure.
And when they rise up, it's cool. All they need to do is, it was a little too Marvel movie. It needed to be like a Zack Snyder DC movie. They needed to knock out a couple lights, have a couple dark shadows.
Mm-hmm.
I know that'll get a lot of hate in the comments.
Well, go watch Rebel Moon. Jeez.
Rebel Moon coming up. But anyway, I think that for the setup in general, do you think, let me start with you, Frank. Do you think that because of the way they set up Balin as he's kind of got this journey overall, and that you don't really know where he's going? He's such a layered character where he's not, he's mercenary, and he definitely does some bad stuff, but he also has this this love for the idea of the Jedi Order, all that stuff, and he's trying to find this purpose. Do you think his story's over, or do you think that they recast?
I think you have to recast. You can't set up this type of character and then just leave it for a comic or a book. I think continue this character on, recast, and it's going to play into could play into a larger conversation about Filoni's movie and what do you do with Luke, Han, and Leia. So I mean, you got to recast him because this story is I think the way they set it up, it's way too important for this part of the galaxy, of this corner of the galaxy amongst Force users, if you will, with the potential setup of Mortis. Like, that's much too fun to just drop it off to maybe even an animated show. I doubt it, but obviously there's other mediums that tell this to continue the story, but it just wouldn't feel the right way to go.
I agree with you. They do season 2. It's going to be weird to just say, well, he's not there anymore. But Kev, do you think they're going to if they do a season 2, do you think that they're going to recast him, or do you think that they're just going to say he's just kind of, he's off doing his own thing and Shin is going to be kind of the lead bad guy?
No, I think that they have a story to tell. He was on that mountain. Those are the Mortis gods on the mountain carving.
Yeah.
Like Mount Rushmore. Like, I think you see the son and the father, but the mother's or the sister, the daughter, the head is cut off or whatever. But maybe they have it a way where, like, the next time we see him, he doesn't look the same. Obviously, it'll be a different actor, and it'll be described that whatever he did at that mountain that he was looking at, where that little light was shining, that's going to transform him. Maybe he becomes something much greater of an evil or an omnipresent. Maybe he's neither good or evil, but I could see him coming back. Maybe they try to get someone who kind of looks like him. People are talking about Liev Schreiber or Gerard Butler, or maybe he just comes completely different and he's metamorphosized into something greater. And a lot of people are talking about maybe he tracks down the Bendu. I think that might be a lot of for live action people to swallow.
I don't
know if they'll go that far.
I don't know. They did Space Whales. Space Whales look pretty good.
And you said about the Mortis statues are
Rise
there.
of Skywalker was going to have something very similar, like the Duel of the Fates script. If you ever read it, Kylo was gonna get training by this like ultra crazy like Sith alien thing. So you never know. But yeah, I do think he'll come back, they're not going to obviously CGI it. But let's just give, like, he was so good in the small screen time he did. It reminded me of, I mentioned this on the Jedi Way a couple weeks back. Like, Vader was in A New Hope for like only like, what is it, like 8 minutes and 17 seconds or something.
Is that right?
Yeah. Or 13 minutes, something. It's very little.
Right.
And the screen time he was so powerful in it.
Right.
And I just thought that Balin, is quickly up there as just one of my favorites.
Easily.
Like,
because he was layered. He was layered.
Yeah.
And I actually think I don't know if you guys have been watching it, but I watched One Piece recently. I watched the whole series, and it's an actor. He was actually in 300 with Gerard Butler, and he plays the Grand Admiral in One Piece of the Marines. And I actually think he'd be fantastic as Balin if that was the case too. But you need to find somebody who kind of has that kind of weight. I really like Gerard Butler. I don't know if he's got the same acting chops as like those guys or the late great Ray Stevens. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna rewatch Rome after this. Like, I loved him in Rome, and he's
my favorite role of his. Yeah,
and his interview, if you ever want to, like, just after you watch the series and you're happy with it or however you feel, try to find his interview at Celebration, and like I can even get like choked up thinking about it. Like, he was so happy to be in this family of Star Wars and talking about how he was making the lightsaber vroom noises and stuff. And if you watch that interview at Celebration, you just see that, like, we lost a good one. And it's great when you see stars come that are such fans of the work, right? Rosario Dawson retweeted fan art of her as Ahsoka because she liked the Clone Wars series, and that got her on it, right? Like, and just Soul Circle too. Like, I didn't even realize that she's in Shattered Glass with Hayden.
Well, they're buddies.
Kristen and her, they were friends before Hayden was ever Anakin. Like and they were 16, 17 years old. They went to acting school together. Like,
well, that's why I think he's going to be in it again too, because I think they like being on set together, like working together. So I do think that's going to happen. But look, before we move on to wrap it up, I do want to say about one more sponsor, and this is a lot of people have bad habits, man. There's a lot of bad habits, but how do you beat a bad habit? You beat it with a good habit. And let me tell you about Fume. All right, guys. This episode is sponsored by Fume. Bad habits, man. A lot of people have bad habits, and bad habits can really kick your ass, and they can mess with your health. They really can set you back. I've seen it, been around it, and I know. And when you see this, the first thing you go, well, what is that? The first thing you should know is that's not a vape pen. It's not electronic. It's natural. That's why I'm on board in the first place. What is it then? It's a device, and it helps you quit nasty habits, and that's why I was on board right away when they reached out. At first, I'm not gonna lie, I was skeptical. I didn't know. I was like, I don't know, that's not really my thing. It's like, wait a minute. You're not breathing in nasty chemicals with this, and what it is, it's it's just fresh air. It's natural air. It is flavored air. That's it. You heard me. Air. And it flavors. It is a great way to replace nasty habits. There is no nasty chemicals, none of the stuff that creates bad habits. And that to me was like, oh, wait a minute. So you can actually turn a bad habit and you just make it a good habit because it ain't messing you up and it ain't hurting you. Because I said, wait a minute, flavored air? And I said, it just feels fresh. They sent me one of them. And I said, okay, great, cool. It's pretty well weighted. It's perfectly balanced and it's very easy to fidget with. Stopping is something that everybody puts off because it is hard. But if you switch to Fume, it is easy and it's enjoyable and it's fun. Fume has served over 100,000 customers and has had thousands of success stories, and there's no reason that can't be you. Join Fume in accelerating humanity's breakup from destructive habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. Head to tryfume.com and use that code BIGTHING. You can get 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfume.com. Use that code BIGTHING to save an additional 10% off your order today. All right. Thank you to our buddies over at Fume. I've been getting a lot of people reaching out about this, and I'm glad that you are trying it. Once again, beat a bad habit with a good habit and try Fume. Okay. All right, gentlemen. So overall, I mean, Frank's going to actually be back next week. He's going to be in studio for, we're going to do a kind of overall recap of the series in general. Much better, Kevin. Much better. So for audio,
no, it's me. It's Ezra. Don't shoot. It's Ezra.
Exactly. But Frank will be in studio next week, and we're going to be doing kind of an overall recap and doing a couple of stories and see, kind of what we think is how the movies are going to pan out and all those other things. But overall, this series to me, it worked. And I think that Filoni definitely has a good grasp on it in general. I do think, though, that there is a place for shows like this and shows like Andor. And I would tell you that I bet you that philosophy is not shared inside of Lucasfilm. I just don't think it is. And I think that it's more so that they want to do, like, and we all know, we all fell in love with Star Wars as kids. And there are times that Star Wars should be for kids. There's other times that you got to move that needle towards some more adult stuff. And I think that that's what Andor is for. And I think that when you have a show like Ahsoka, I think Ahsoka could be enjoyed by adults. I think Ahsoka could be enjoyed by kids. And I think that's why you have moments like the Turtle People. That's why you have moments like those, like you said, Kevin, like your daughter loves Turtle People, right?
Yeah, the Noti, she was laughing every time we were on screen.
Right. So there's a place for all of it. But I have a feeling that because look, Filoni's got a lot of clout right now, as he should, right? Because when shows like this come out and you see it all over Twitter, you see it all over the place, like Filoni saved Star Wars, people love Filoni and what he's done. But what I worry is that they just stick to this type of Star Wars the whole time. Kev, do you think or I should say, Frank, do you think we're going to get more, more serious Star Wars ever again after season 2 of Andor?
I hope so, because from all indications, Acolyte kind of seems a little more serious tone.
But right.
That being said, overall, after that, I hope so, because I agree that there should be a place for both types of shows to exist, because they're doing two radically different things. I mean, Andor and Ahsoka could not be further apart in terms of like the tone they present and the material and how they present material they present it. I mean, obviously how the Empire looks in Andor and how the Empire looks in Ahsoka or Mandalorian and things like that. So they should continue to do both. I love both versions of it. Both versions of that type of Star Wars works for me.
Right.
Are they worried about connecting all of it that way because the tones are radically different. Maybe that's a thing. I don't know. But I hope they continue to do both.
What do you think, Kev?
Well, yeah, I hope we do a Sith Council special deep dive on Young Jedi Adventures because we can really go through that with Yoda and all the High Republic. No, I think there's room at the top for everyone. That's a shame that you say that that you think that's what Lucasfilm, and you're probably right, unfortunately. And especially the streaming numbers weren't really spectacular for Andor, right?
But that's the thing what people don't realize though, and that's what I always try to. They got better and better and better and better because streaming is not movies. Like movies, it's opening weekend, and then what that second drop is on weekend 2 is huge, and then that determines how long you stay in the theater before you hit streaming. Streaming is different. I mean, Battlestar Galactica, people are still finding it now and watching it now, and it becomes more. I mean, Seinfeld and all these other shows that are still on, like they continue to get big ratings for these streamers. When you get buzz, it started to pick up because it's different with like movies. With movies, again, you're paying for the ticket. You're like, oh, I'm not going to spend $15 to go do this. You're spending $15 a month on Disney Plus or whatever it is, and you're going, all right, everybody's talking about this show. I'll just push play, and if not, I'll watch the other thing instead. So that show got nominated for a ton of different awards, and more people watch. I had somebody tell me last week I just started watching Andor after everybody was talking about it. So it's a little different. I think that show did better in the long run.
Then maybe your fears are not gonna come through. I think that season 2 will be telling. And yeah, I hear Acolyte's a little more serious, and then you're gonna have Skeleton Crew, which will be more like Goonies and stuff. So I think there's room for every genre. I mean, Star Wars Visions shows that. If you ever seen them, there's so many different ways you can present Star Wars. There's a couple of those Star Wars Vision shorts that I would pay good money to see in a theater. Like
I know, but I wish, dude, that team is different than the other team. That's the team that does Visions is the same team that does like Jedi Survivor, and like the same team that does the video game stories. They're a separate team. People don't realize that team is not associated or does not work with the TV and the film people. Everybody just thinks that they all work together. They don't. The Visions team and the Jedi Survivor team, they do, and I think that those stories have been better than a lot of the other stuff. And I think the tones overall, I think I would love to see more that creative team do that, because they're also connected to like the books and stuff too. That same team works with the book people and everything too. And like I still think, especially, I'm so shocked that they haven't done this too, where you look at the success of Last of Us and you look at like they have these really well-written stories, like really well-written stories that you could adapt into a 8-part series, mini series. You have movies that could be adapted to it, and whether, again, I always bring up Darth Bane and Plagueis and other things too, but there's so many things.
I would pay $100 a month.
I know. I heard, I don't know how true this is, but I heard a rumor that was in development and was getting close to that they were going to do something with it. And then again, just a rumor that Kathleen Kennedy and somebody else said it was too inside baseball, and they decided they scrapped it. Again, I don't know how true that is. I don't know how true it is at all.
They're on the Death Star, and the guy's like, "Oh, it's Alderaan. I'll take you go see where my family lives, the farm." Like the stormtroopers.
Great book. Great book.
Yeah.
So anyway, but either way, though, I think that, what would you rank, Frank, this overall Ahsoka season 1? What would you rank it from 1 to 10?
I would give it an 8.
An 8? Okay.
I give it an 8. Yeah. I'll give it an 8.
Okay. What about you, Kev?
I would give it a 7. And before you answer your number, I also, when you give your rating, I also want to ask you, do you miss Star Wars in the movies still, or are you still diehard only on TV?
No, I actually said this when I saw Ahsoka episode 1 and 2 on the big screen, because we got to see it at El Capitan. I actually said to Mike, I said, yeah, this definitely, I do want to see it in the theater, because I don't, as much as I've liked watching Star Wars on TV, I don't think that they've cracked the code. I just don't. I think that I think that season 1, season 2, Mandalorian, great. I thought Andor, if every show was, and again, we just talked about how they need to be different, but there's just so much. The writing and and these episodes weren't as short as say Mandalorian season 3. The writing dipped tremendously in Mandalorian season 3. The writing, I know you love it, Kev, but the writing to me was really bad in Obi-Wan.
Well, again, you know my thoughts on Obi-Wan. I had very strong opinions about the score and the director and all of that. But
that's what people say to me. People still say this, like, "Oh, don't you wish that Obi-Wan was going to be a movie?" No, I just wish it was written better. If it would have been 6 episodes at an hour,
no one's asking for that. Yeah,
an hour a piece. Just give me more about that development of. Oh, this was a great. My friend had this theory, by the way, and I'm glad that I just thought of this. And I thought they were going to reveal this because when he said it, I was like, dude, what a reveal that would be. He said, "What if Balin was Obi-Wan's brother?" And I was
did
like,
see that somewhere. That would have been.
He brought that up to me, and I went, dude, I want that so bad now because it was brought up in that series and never touched on again.
Yeah.
But if he was Obi-Wan's brother, that's what it
would have been weird if they were both in the order and then like didn't sense that like, hey, are we related by any chance? Because like
maybe,
he knew Anakin, so he probably knew something of
Anakin's midichlorians, right?
Yeah, I guess, but it was just that's true, but it was just something.
It would have been crazy.
But either way, my point of that is that to me was my favorite part of Obi-Wan. I was like, oh, where's that? Let's dive deep into those types of things and build in the way that like just good writing, right? It says like I just don't like this philosophy of like, well, that's not the way George would have done it. It's like, I love George, but let's get past just what George would do. It's like,
what's your ranking? What's your ranking of Ahsoka season 1?
I'm gonna split the difference with you two. I'm gonna go 7.5.
Okay,
I'm gonna go 7.5 because I think that like I was at a heavy 8, but I just don't think they stuck the landing. But I was at an 8 for this show, and I think that where I would probably give Mandalorian season 3 like a 6.5.
Yeah, I mean, I would go 7.2. Like,
in that area. It's in that area. I'm gonna
change mine. I'm going 7.6.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm gonna go 7.6739.
Sure. Okay. As this closes out, though, I will say, and maybe we'll end with this. I think that I'm gonna go right now. I think I'm at season 1 of The Mandalorian, or maybe season 2 of Mandalorian. Is my favorite. Then I'm gonna go the tie between season 1 of Mandalorian and Andor. Then Ahsoka, then Obi-Wan, and then follow with Boba Fett.
It's just a shame.
I forgot Mandalorian season 3. Obi-Wan
should be at the top of everyone's list.
Mandalorian season.
It should be, but it's not.
I'm gonna put Obi-Wan. I probably tied Mandalorian season 3 and Obi-Wan are probably tied for me. Maybe Mandalorian.
You can call this a cop out, but I dare not throw Andor in a comparison, like a ranking with the other shows. I just can't.
They're so different. They're radically different. They're radically different.
I can't like.
Yes,
they only made one type of those shows, and so like
yes, you can.
Sits, right? I mean,
no,
sure,
but
you can, but I won't.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying though. They're radically different shows. It's like. Yeah. The writing in Andor is on par with like the writing of like, the first season or 2 of Battlestar Galactica, like that type of show. It's like a really detailed, well-written, executed show. And that's why they brought Tony Gilroy in there.
Yeah. I love it. I think I'd put Mando. I think I'd still put Mando season 2 at the top and then Ahsoka. And then after that, I don't know. It's
Mando 1.
I mean, yeah, probably Mando 1 and then Obi-Wan, Boba Fett.
I got Book of Boba Fett number
Mando
1
season
for me.
3 above Obi-Wan. I'd
probably put Mandalorian season 3 over because it closed strong. Put the helmet on. Kev, what do you say? You're Obi-Wan first?
Like I said, Obi-Wan is just like that. I just feel compelled. I really like the movie version we did, and I really love like those characters, but I mean, I will rank Andor number 1, right?
Yeah, I get it.
And I would say that Obi-Wan is up there with Mandalorian season 2. Then I would go Ahsoka, then Mandalorian season 1, and then season 3 and Book of Boba Fett are kind of tied there for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there you go.
Like I said, it is because something's in last place. I loved Book of Boba Fett. It had Boba Fett riding on a freaking Rancor.
It's all Star Wars. It's all Star Wars.
Yeah.
And there was not, I will say this, that there's not, I didn't hate any of the shows. I didn't like, oh my God, that's terrible. That's terrible. Like the more and more I watch Last Jedi, that's how I feel. But these
Those clicks.
no, but these shows in general, it's like, you know, there's some silly moments in Boba Fett, like the Power Rangers scooters and shit like that. And but overall, it's still Star Wars to me, the way that they've been doing it, and it's fun. I like that we get one or two shows. But to answer your previous question beforehand, and we can end it with this, is like, yeah, the movie, I'm looking forward to the movie. The question is, what is it going to be? So as much as I want to see a Star Wars movie, I think that division in Lucasfilm is in shambles. I think it's in shambles. I don't think that, I mean, did you see the short that I did on like that stat that came out of like, there are 2 directors that were given Star Wars, 2 that finished the project. Like there's like 15 or something that didn't, and that was before.
Yeah, I saw a list of how many canceled projects.
Yeah, and that was before the Del Toro news came out also. Like there's so many. So I'm excited about seeing one, but the question is, when is it going to happen? Who's it going to be? There's that rumor that Mandalorian season 4 will actually be a movie. If that's the case, and then that'll probably be the first one that goes, because Favreau will probably direct it, and you get a Favreau Star Wars movie in the theaters. That's exciting. If that's the case, and you could do that. It's the question is, which one comes out first? Is it the Rey movie?
Right.
I think that's a mistake to leave with that, but I think they're so far into the development of it all, you kind of have to do it. Unless you can get that Favreau one off the ground, because they've already written it,
Right. You think the Filoni one is going to be like the last to get out of the gate?
Well, it has to be. It's got to be, because it doesn't have enough time to build all the story. Because like look at it as far as time goes. Let's say the writer's strike ends. Like they come to agreement at the end of this week. Let's fingers crossed and say that, and hopefully, that people start to go back to work within the next couple of weeks. Let's say that the business is back to normal by November 1st. All right, so that means that Skeleton Crew is going to be the first one as far as, and we're not including Acolyte because it doesn't connect to the Filoni movie. So the first one out of the gate has to be Skeleton Crew. So that's first. Then the question is, where does Mandalorian season 4 fit in? Does it become a movie? And if it becomes a movie, are they going to be able to shoot that in 2024 and get it out by 2025? Right? If not, then the series at least comes out in 2025. Which will then mean that Ahsoka season 2 needs to film and get out by either late 2025 or early 2026 to hit that proposed date of Filoni's movie at the end of 2026. So that's kind of how the math leads up right now. But as we also know, if they said, oh, Filoni's movie got canceled, I wouldn't be surprised. It's the one movie that you probably shouldn't bet against. But at this point, I wouldn't be surprised.
Unfortunately, I kind of agree with that. It would just be insane to me for Filoni stock to drop that much between Ahsoka seasons 1 and 2 and the movie. Something crazy would have to happen. Is there a world in which the Filoni movie comes out and then you have a season 2 of Ahsoka?
No.
After the movie?
No, it would make no sense. I mean, because you need to lead, because you got to lead to all that stuff. I mean, I guess you could do it, but it's like, why? It's supposed to be like the big finale of all of it.
Well, you could have everything, all your ducks in a row, and then in like the climax of the Filoni movie, all the heroes are about to get killed, and then shows up. First of all, if they're on that planet for a while, like training, like you'll have a badass Sabine and Ahsoka, master and apprentice, come save the day. You could do it would be like another wrestling reference, like a cheap, easy pop, like a return pop, right? So
I think that's the one. I think that's where we finally see Sam Witwer in live action, is the Filoni movie. By the way, I think that's where we finally do it. Anyway, well, listen, I want to thank you guys for joining me here today on the show. Now, I know that Frank and Kevin are both on the same show on Scoundrels Inc. Guys, where can they find the show, Frank?
Yeah, on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the social medias, all the social media sites, Scoundrels Inc. If you want to subscribe, follow the socials. We do a lot of shorts too. That'd be cool. And Kev pops up there once in a while when he wants to.
I'm a Star Wars floozy. I'm on another show called The Jedi Way with John Roca on the Outlaw Network. So you can check me out there. I have Scoundrels Inc. is the special place in my heart. I founded it with you, Frank, over wings and beer. Come on.
It's true.
But yeah, you can find me that. And also, if you're waiting, you want to start a Star Wars movie, you can watch my KOTOR movies. Just go on YouTube, search KOTOR movie trilogy, and you can see the whole darn thing. It's like 6 hours of all of my KOTOR movies. Pretty cool.
All right, and for me, you're here. If you haven't done it already, subscribe to the channel, hit that button. I'd like to thank both Kevin and Frankie for joining us here today. Thanks for doing so. And we'll also be back with Frank next week in studio for Sith Council, where we'll be going over what we expect to see, their overall recap of Ahsoka, but then some more of the movie news. So make sure you check us out. All right, guys, thank you so much. Make sure you comment, click like. Again, if you're able to and you have the means to support the channel, please, please, please check out one of our wonderful sponsors. I put the links in the description. I always pin them as the first comment in the comment section. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you, and we'll see you on the flip side. Peace.